rumor has it, and we know that Tucker is in Moscow. There's already footage of him circulating, just walking around, him talking to locals. So he is in Moscow, he is in Russia, but the rumor is that he's in Moscow, he's in Russia to interview Vladimir Putin. And to be completely honest with you, I'm not that surprised. First off, the Russians love Tucker Carlson. I watch a lot of Russian state TV, and they talk about him all the time. They compliment him. They say he's one of the only honest voices in journalism, etc., etc. And if you check out the Russian Media Monitor and you check out Russian state TV in the last 24 hours, look right here. Russian media discusses Tucker Carlson's visit to Russia. Simoyan, she's the head of RT, wishes good luck to Tucker Carlson. State TV showcases Tucker Carlson's visit to Russia. And it's just all compliments and compliments and praise for him. So I wanted to talk about the possibility of Tucker Carlson interviewing Vladimir Putin and what that would mean, how that would go. And so before I give my perspective, let me read a few other perspectives, because I don't want to just because my perspective is I think it's a terrible idea, not because we shouldn't interview Putin on principle. I'm fine with interviewing Putin. I just think Tucker's going to do a terrible job because he has a terrible track record. Let's go into it. Let's read a few other perspectives, though. Here's from Marjorie Taylor Greene, an opponent of Ukraine aid, so that might bias review a little bit. Democrats and their propagandists in the media are spasming at the prospect of Tucker Carlson interviewing Putin. They feel entitled to the position of gatekeeper and believe they are the ones. They hate someone who, like Tucker, goes off script. Ooh. We have a free press in this country, and it's people like Tucker who we depend on to speak the truth. My goodness. How inspiring. Here's another one. Here's from Colin Rugg. He's just showing a bunch of Russians that are like, oh, we listen to Tucker and we love what he has to say, and he plays Sputnik, Russian state TV, interviewing Russians about him visiting. Let's see if we could see a few of these. In my opinion, he is the bravest and most courageous American journalist today. I just want to throw out there that while Tucker is visiting prison, there is American journalists currently sitting in Russian prison for criticizing the government, and they're being used for leverage. Every single one of those people are braver than Tucker Carlson. One of them is a Wall Street Journal reporter, by the way, who has the fortitude to be frank and speak his mind. Tucker Carlson frequently appears in the news. He is known for telling the truth, which is why we often face criticism in the United States. He often faces criticism. From what I understand, he has come here to Moscow. And I don't know if they'll let him back into the U.S. I deeply admire his courage and his ability to provide genuine, personal insights into what is truly happening. His rational logic and understanding of good and evil are qualities worthy of respect. And if you go into the comments here, man, they love it. They love it. They are so excited to see this guy interview Tucker Carlson. And to be quite frank, a lot of these guys love it because they like Putin. They either like Putin because of his theocratic leanings, or they like Putin because of the groups he also opposes, which is many of the groups they oppose, like the LGBTQ plus movement and other progressive movements. As Russia is pushing more and more this old Russian imperialist Russian idea that Russia, through its Eurasian nature, has a special place in Europe and a special place in destiny as a Eurasian state, and its destiny is to fight the degeneracy and enlightenment of Europe. I mean, that type of framework, which has existed for hundreds of years but have been revamped since the end of the Soviet Union, and especially in recent years with the war in Ukraine, that could align with somebody who also wants to battle LGBT people. And so I think that's also why you find a lot of support in comments like this for Putin, for him. And in fact, I was at LibertyCon and I was talking to people who were asking me like, hey, I'm a libertarian and I know some of my friends who now like Putin. And maybe it's their Mises Caucus people, who knows this, the reasons, but it seemed to mostly lean towards, when I engage with these people, like, oh, well, they see that Putin's fighting the same guys they are. Either way, that's some of the reaction from the locals. That's some of the reaction from commenters online. And I do also want to throw out an article I would recommend you read if you want an opinion that I would actually recommend. And this is from Anne Applebaum. Tucker Carlson has been very useful to Viktor Orban because he helps him hide his corruption behind the veil of culture war, as I wrote in September. Reposting because Carlson is in Moscow, doing the same favor for a much bloodier, more dangerous autocrat. Now, this is what I'm going to make my main point around, right? Now, I could spend all day going through all the lies Tucker Carlson has told about the war in Ukraine. I could say, hey, you guys remember that time that Tucker Carlson said on national television on Fox that for every one Russian soldier that dies, 7 Ukrainian soldiers die? He got that from a Photoshop version of the Jack Textera Discord leaks, and he was tricked by it. Or maybe not tricked, who knows? All I know is the week after he made that mistake, he had on another guest, RFK, who then repeated the same lie, which he or Fox failed to correct. So that's one example. What's another example? Well, the Novokhovka dam explosion. We went down and we filmed it in Kherson. If you want to see some of the footage from that flooding, on my main YouTube channel on DylanBurnsTV, we documented some of the war crimes down there. Well, he said at the time that it was probably the Ukrainians. Did he provide any evidence? No. Did he correct his position once even Russian architects were saying that it could have only been destroyed from the inside and the Russians were the ones that occupied it? Or the pictures that were revealed with cars stuffed to the brim with explosions? Of course not. Again, I could do this, go one by one by one, and just find all of the lies he's told that he's never corrected, never even bothered to correct. I'd go one by one by one. It's not worth it because it would take all day. And I think it's probably better to work in generalities here. But just to let you guys know that this guy has a bad record when talking about the war. So that's the first reason I don't think you should be doing this interview, is if you lie about the war or you constantly spread misinformation about the war, if you're going to be interviewing someone who's a specialist and lying about the war, because they were saying they weren't even going to do it in the first place. They lied about invading Crimea. They lied about intervening in the Donbass between 2015 and 2016, having the Russian soldiers remove the patches from their arm and join in the fight. They lied about the weapons they smuggled in. And now he's going to deal with a professional liar? No, Tucker Carlson won't be able to handle that. So that's the first thing. The second thing is Tucker Carlson's always selective with the information he includes. And the best example is what Ann Applebaum was talking about, and that is Viktor Orban. Viktor Orban and his government is the most corrupt government in all of the EU. And I'm not saying that because I don't like him, even though I don't like him. I'm saying that because that's what the studies find. Out of all of the EU, Hungary has the most public sector corruption. And it's become such a joke that there is the American ambassador to Hungary is visiting the different locations where they had corrupt projects, where they did construction projects just so they could like skim the top off of it and make money. And he's visiting it and posting it on Twitter and showing how terrible the infrastructure is, just to make a point about how Hungary is wasting EU funds. That's also why the EU funds to Hungary are frozen, by the way, is because of the public sector corruption. This is also why Viktor Orban says that Ukraine can't join the EU because of corruption. Either way, Tucker Carlson likes to paint himself as a crusader against corruption, and Hunter Biden has been the apple of his eye and of many conservatives for targeting, to go after the idea that, well, it's possible that maybe Hunter Biden could have possibly benefited from using his father's name. And we have just a clear case with Viktor Orban. Tucker Carlson never got to interview Hunter Biden. He got to interview a crack addict that he said once like had sex with Obama. He's been able to get those types of high profile interviews, but none like that. He got to make a documentary about Viktor Orban. Did he include anything in about his corruption? No. Did he include anything about his centralization of control of the press, which as supposed journalist he should care about? As somebody who complained about the Twitter files, for God's sakes, you should care about the centralization of the press around a singular oligarch. Did he care? No. None of this was included. You know what was included? Culture war nonsense. Ignore the corruption, ignore the economic mismanagement, ignore the terrible relationship with other European states. Pay attention to the fact that he doesn't like LGBT. If he doesn't like LGBT people, then we can invite him to CPAC. And that's another thing. This guy isn't just buddy-buddy with Orban. He's also buddy with Tucker. He's also buddy with CPAC and the Conservative Political Action Conference. So Viktor Orban is finding a way to really embed himself within Republican culture. And that's a story for another day, though. So my reason for not wanting this guy to interview Putin is, number one, he lies about the war. Number two, he doesn't correct lies about the war. Number three, he doesn't challenge his interview subjects if he likes them or they agree with him on anything. For example, like that person who claimed that he smoked crack with Obama and then had gay intercourse with him. He didn't challenge him on his claims. He didn't ask for nothing. It was just, sure, we'll just have that broadcasted on the platform. I don't think that's responsible, especially when you're talking about a situation where people are dying, children are being stolen, there are mass graves being discovered, cities are being bombed. I think we need somebody with a little bit more dedication to the truth, and somebody who's not going to be selective with what they present the audience, which is going to be Putin's perspective, not counteracted or balanced out with the Ukrainian perspective, because that's how a real journalist would interview Viktor Orban or Vladimir Putin. It would be, hey, I heard that you have arrested this journalist. Why is this journalist in prison? Oh, you say he isn't in prison? Here's evidence that he is. That's how you would engage in an interview with someone like this. You need to challenge people in positions of authority. That's what Tucker Carlson says the press should do, challenge people in positions of authority. But the only people in positions of authority that need to be challenged is the liberals, not the dictators going on wars of conquest to snuff out other nationalities. This is why I had a reaction to Lex Fridman that had a few people react to me negatively, which is I called him naive. And I stand by it. I think that this post is naive. Now, I like conversation and democracy and, freedom of expression. I love all these things. But thinking that just having the conversation in and of itself is the solution to all of our problems or any of our problems, or necessarily even good, I think that ignores certain preconditions that need to exist. For example, there needs to be some good faith in the conversation. And if both people are acting in bad faith, as I believe both of them will be, it's going to be hard for me to view it as an honest and open conversation, especially if we know that Tucker has lied about the war and Putin has lied about the war. What this could end up becoming is a puff piece for a dictator engaged in conquest of another nation, not a confrontation of those ideas, a confrontation of Putin's values, and trying to, hey, you arrested this journalist, answer for it, which is what a real journalist would do in an interview. If it's just, tell us why you're angry at Ukraine and that's it, then all that's going to happen is Tucker Carlson's viewer is going to get pure, distilled, undistilled Russian propaganda with no pushback, while Tucker's looking there going like, approving of everything that's being said. And that's how the interview will go. Again, I'm not against interviewing Putin on principle. Barbara Waters or somebody else with experience who knows how to do it, I'd be fine with it because we can still get valuable information out of it. But propaganda from Putin is not valuable. It's toxic to the information space. This interview, if it happens, which we don't know for sure it will, could all just be rumor, even if he's entertaining it. If this interview happens, it's not going to add to the information space. It's going to hurt it. It's going to contain lies. It's going to contain selective information, and he's not going to be strongly challenged. And if this is a conversation, it's a conversation between Vladimir Putin and somebody who won't challenge him on any of his beliefs. So it might as well just be platform Putin, have him speak for 2 hours, and just be done with it. This is naive. This will hurt the information space more than it will help it. Not to mention, we know that Tucker Carlson will edit out stuff to make interview subjects look better. Someone just brought it up in Gutter Chat. When he interviewed Kanye West said tons of anti-Semitic stuff in that interview. You know what they did with it? They edited it all out. Try to portray him as least anti-Semitic as possible. Problem is with Kanye is he can't keep his mouth shut, and he eventually slipped up anyway. But the Kanye footage eventually leaked, and we saw that he said a ton of horribly anti-Semitic stuff with Tucker. Stuff that could have been big breaking news. That could have gotten him probably even more viewership. But he didn't air it. Why? that makes me ask about the integrity of the man as well. Why would he cover for that? Weird. Anyway, that's enough of this.